Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are on this fine planet today. My name is Jim Poole. I'm the CEO of NuCalm. And tonight, here in America, we have an extraordinary invitation-only exclusive event for our masterminds, our NuCalm masterminds. We had a new program drop into the mastermind vault for energy last Tuesday. And tonight, one of my dear friends, somebody I hold in high regard, someone I think has exceptional mental curiosity, brilliant thinking, and shares my pathological optimism. There's very few things that can get us, and it's important, especially in today's times of what seems to be a constant state of crisis. We need to surround ourselves with people that see vision, see the light, and see that there's opportunities for all of us. Tonight is not only about Mark Victor Hansen and his life and kind of the path he's been on, and hopefully we're going to learn stories of resilience and overcoming obstacles, but it's also about money. And it's interesting, when you think of money, you think of an intangible object, a piece of crane stationery with the president's face on it in the color green. Well, this intangible object or tangible object, why is it so kind of crazy? There's a great term that I lean onto a lot, and that is money's funny. It's supposed to change hands, not people. Why do we have a strange relationship with money? Well, we don't have to. So, Mark Victor Hansen, thank you for joining us this evening.
It is my pleasure. I'm thankful to be here because I grew up with no money and I wanted to have a lot of money, which I now have. And I thought, wow, what if everybody could have it? Because we can make everybody intimately better off. When I wrote this book with Bob Allen called 1 Minute Millionaire, we said, hey, look, everyone needs to earn financial freedom, then get time freedom, then get relationship freedom, like great relationships like you and I have and our spouses and our families have. And then get passionately on purpose about doing what it is you're supposed to do. All of us came in here with some unique talent and ability to go manifest and do absolute wonders. It's not just for Elon Musk to have 8 multi-billion-dollar companies. Any of us can do all that we want to do. And tonight we're going to explore that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for being here. I've known Mark for more than a decade. I hold Mark and Crystal in high regard, and I love spending time with Mark. And you know, we riff a lot and we share a lot of ideas, and Mark is certainly never in short of ideas and enthusiasm and opportunity. So Mark, let's get started. I've got some questions for you.
Yes,
and I
sir.
hope to elucidate some good thinking and some good dialogue, and also for our audience, some interesting tidbits. So for those who may know your name, and you are a ubiquitous worldwide name, but not your story, please take us back to 3 defining moments early in your career when you had to make a bold decision to believe in yourself before the world believed in you.
Wow, what a great question. It's 1973 and 74. I'm doing $2 million a year with the geodesic domes in New York, spherical buildings made out of triangles. I've been in graduate school as a research assistant with the Buckminster Fuller, who invented those, and Dymaxion maps and flying cars and floating cities and all kinds of cool stuff. Einstein's arguably his best student. And I'm trying to be Bucky, which is exactly what somebody wants. Well, don't be somebody else. Don't be an imitation. Be yourself. But I'm trying to be Bucky, and I had this company building out of plastic in Hicksville, Long Island, New York. And I go bankrupt so fast because we had a Arab interruption at that time. And they said, we can write checks for bigger banks amounts. And they did for me. And I had to go to the biggest library in the world, New York Public Library, check a book out of the library, How to Go Bankrupt by Yourself. And I did. And then I'm 6 months sleeping in a sleeping bag in front of another guy's room. And I finally say, well, look, a book that my wife and I ultimately wrote called Ask says, look, you can only ask 3 ways because you've all got a destiny and you've got dreams, but what's your destiny? And I said, okay, God, what do you want me to do? And God said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to talk to people that care about things that matter, that would make a life transformative difference. And I thought, wow. Next morning, I'm at breakfast. I sit with my 3 roommates, and I say, I want to speak. Is there anybody young that I can relate to, not a Broadway star, not a celebrity, not a doctor, not a lawyer, and somebody age appropriate to me. I was 26 at the time. My roommate said, look, here's a chit. It's a real estate meeting, and real estate interest rate was at 18%, so nobody was buying anything. Go listen to this guy. He will wow your soul. Back then, they didn't have little lavalier microphones, and he's in a cheap hotel, and he wows this audience. He just takes them and elevates them, at the end of which I said, name Chip Collins. He helped make me rich, and then he helped make the Shark Tank, Barbara Corcoran, rich, and a lot of people. So I said, Chip, I want to buy you lunch. He said, what do you want, kid? I said, I want to do what you do. His voice was burned out with no mic. And I said, he said, look, here, go get a real job. Don't do this. 1 in 1,000, you ain't going to make it. I said, look, that has to be my decision, not yours. And he told me what to do if I'd stay out of real estate in the 5 boroughs of New York. And I said, okay. He said, do life insurance. I didn't know what life insurance was. I didn't know what a premium was. I didn't know a CLU meant you're cunning, a CLU meant you're cunning, lonely, and unhappy, not a chartered life underwriter. I knew zip. He said, call on 10 people and one will say yes. It's now 6:30 at night. I drive up to this metropolitan building. There's no secretary at the front desk. I go to the head office. It is beyond cool. This guy weighs in at 450 pounds, naked with his ink pen half empty. He was really a big brother. Holy cow, named Tony. I said, I'm a professional speaker and sales trainer. Chip gave me all the lines. And do you have meetings? Yeah. How often? Every Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the morning. I said, good, I'll be here. And it was $25 a seminar. Now we get 35,000 here and 75,000 international. So things have gotten a lot better over my lifetime. And I've talked in 80 countries, so it's been superb. Anyhow, by the end of the thing, the guy, I said, do you want to cut the check or have your secretary cut it? I'm a big boy. The secretary wasn't there. He cuts me a check and he said, hey, kid, here's a directory. I'm the #1 guy in the #1 life insurance company in the whole world, metropolitan. They call me Big Tony, obviously. And said, you just call every one of these people, the general agent or the manager, and you tell them I told you to call them. If they don't hire you, come back to me, and I'm going to tell them to hire you. You got it? I said, I got it. Well, I was starting to do 4 talks a day. I was making relatively to being bankrupt, I suddenly started making money. And then he said, boy, you're the best storyteller we've ever heard. You do a book. And I did a book, and it was crazy. I self-published it immediately, and whoops, I threw my books on the floor. Not a good idea. Stand up, speak out, and win. I sold them for $10. I said, this is not a New York Times bestseller. It is not a national bestseller, but it's my bestseller. And Jim, I'd like to sign it to you, your wife, and your kids if you have any. And if you got a dog, I'll add the dog. And they all laughed and thought, oh, this guy's really weird. But they all bought it. The first day I sold 37, and the first year I sold 20,000 at $10. That's 200,000. Today, that's like 2 million. So it's really good. And I apologize to my voice being out, for those you can tell. We took our grandkids to the Wizard of Oz at the Sphere, and I captured a little cold, which I haven't had a cold in 20 years, my wife said. So it's sort of amazing that I would have one tonight for you all. But bear with me, I got a lot to share with you. And so I started out as a speaker, then I became a writer, and we've sold 500 million books, 2 million at retail, 1 billion in licensing. Nobody's bigger in nonfiction. And then COVID happened. And we decided we're going to start a publishing house. And the publishing house is called Mark Victor Hansen Library, curiously enough. Sorry, I dropped all my books. I don't usually do this, if I can pick it up. And right now we have the roaring best-selling book, which just came out, and I showed Jim yesterday, prettiest cover I've ever done, called Proverbs. One of my friends, Jerry Fox, pulled it out of the Bible, put it together. He did it like this. I said, Jerry, you're in 100 countries, and it's boring. You can't have a boring cover. You got to have something electrically alive. Anyhow, this has gone, upside down. It has gone to #1 already in 2 days, just because we know what we're doing and we're helping it, and we're loving it. And what he says is read 1 Proverbs a day. There's 31 of them for a month, and you'll start to get wise. And if you keep doing it for the rest of your life, you'll really get wise. How's that?
I love it. I'm sorry you had to experience bankruptcy. I'm sorry you had to sleep in a sleeping bag in front of your friend's door. But I'm happy you met Big Tony. And he does sound like a big, magnanimous human being. It's certainly filled with confidence. So before the success, Mark, before the books, before the global recognition, what personal challenges or setbacks taught you the most about resilience?
My parents loved my four brothers and I, and we loved them, but they had no money. My daddy was a Danish baker, and you don't make any money in 5-cent rolls. And he obviously, old country tradition, all the brothers should take over the bakery. I said, Dad, I don't know what a white glove guy is, but I'm pretty sure I'm one of us. and that wasn't going to work for me. When he did come and see my seminar, he was sort of blown away. So, and all my brothers have done excessively well, I'm thankful to say, knock on wood, because he taught us good work ethics, but he just didn't have an opportunity to get a fine education and then keep getting educated, because Jim Rohn and I did seminars literally around the world together. And Jim would always say, look, an education will get you a job and make you a paycheck, but a real self-help education will make you a fortune. And that's what I write, self-help action books. I'm so sorry, everybody, but you will never forget that I did have a cold once, and I am human, and pinch me.
So this cold is as a side effect of taking your grandkids to see the Wizard of Oz in the Sphere. How was it?
I had never been in the Sphere before, and it is beyond spectacular. The stage, the special effects are so beautiful. Everybody remembers the Wizard of Oz when they're a little kid, right? And then Michael Jackson's done it. It's been done a lot of times, but this goes back to the original. It blazons in AI and the whole thing. But when the tornado comes to Kansas, all of a sudden there's cotton balls blowing at you. A second later, the seats are going up and down, and you're going, holy cow. They said anybody that has a heart problem isn't allowed to go in, even though you paid this exorbitant amount for tickets. And then a minute later, she is shaking the tree when she's going with the straw man and the tin man and the cowardly lion who want to encourage all three virtues, which are great. And by the way, I got to do a quick aside here because we're talking about money. My estate attorney at Century Plaza is the same estate attorney for Frank L. Baum, the guy who wrote Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz is an IP, an intellectual property, and you're the master maestro of intellectual property. So you can explain that to everybody if you want. But there's 26 flavors, but one of which is books, others tapes, audios, videos, all that. But he makes $150 million a year, and he's dead 150 years. Is that cool, or is that cool?
Wow, that's I would call that legacy.
Yeah. So anyhow, they shake the tree in the movie, and all of a sudden these red, fluffy balls come in. All three of the kids caught one. Crystal and I caught one. I should have brought it in here. I didn't. But it is so cool because everybody leaves with a gift, and we're talking about whether there's 20,000 or 80,000. I don't know. I didn't count the house. I couldn't. But it was amazing, and a lot of money is going through there. They're doing 5 shows a day, so somebody's taking it in.
Well, that's really cool. I would like to take my kids there. So you spent decades helping people think bigger, live more abundantly. Who or what most influenced your mindset, yours, around possibility, purpose, and prosperity?
Wow. Well, first of all, 50 years ago, I'm in grad school with Buckminster Fuller, and I started out as a research assistant to him, and then having built a dome company, I used to hire him, and then when I became a speaker, his assistant, who I hired for him back at Southern Illinois University, Shirley Sharkey, called up one day and said, Bucky's out of money, and he's 89 years old. Can you get him some talks? And I got him 20 talks like that, just because I knew everybody that was hiring, because I was doing a lot of talks. I was doing 250 talks a year, and I booked everybody, and took a little percentage and loved it, because I'm going to teach today, you got to have multiple sources of income if you want to get rich. Anyhow, Bucky taught me we're at the first time in history, because of technology. Now, Elon Musk has put that on steroids, that we can make 100% of humanity physically and economically successful. That's 8.4 billion people. Now, 8.4 billion people all need NuCalm, because they all can't sleep, because they're overstressed. And that's why I'm glad to wear my NuCalm hat. And you can see it's got sweat because I climb all the highest mountains, Machu Picchu and Fuji and all of them. And I wear this hat literally everywhere around the world, because I'm so proud to be touting what your great company has done after, I think, 35 years. Is that correct? A beginner.
We're just getting started.
Yeah, me too. And I'm 78 going down to 127 with options for renewal, because if you don't have somewhere to go and you don't have what you just said, you got to, back to what I said, is you make the money because you got to earn the money. So you're not entitled, because otherwise you become a brat or something. There's some other words I like to put in there, but the fourth one is that once you earn the money, then you buy your time from freedom and your relationship freedom. But this thing about being passionately on purpose, everybody has something to do. Now, my four purposes are obviously I write books, I speak, I promote, like I am promoting everywhere, like I just said, NuCalm, just because I think it's the coolest opportunity. And everywhere I go, people lack sleep. They lack resilience. They lack energy. You got to ignite. Can go through the products. And everybody wants to be passionately on purpose about something because retirement is boring. And even all the old people, we're going to get them out of retirement. And I wrote a book with the comedic genius of our time, Art Linkletter, who said, kids say the darndest thing, people are funny, house party. I don't know if you knew. Did you know I wrote that?
Yes.
Yeah, anyhow. But Art and I wrote that we said, don't ever retire from something to nothing. Put on new tires, go in a new, bigger, better direction. And that's what we're giving you tonight. Or as I see it, we are.
So many people, Mark, admire success. Maybe they even aspire for success, but they don't always understand the emotional and psychological relationship behind it. How has your personal relationship with money evolved over the years?
Well, the best thing you can do for the poor is not be one of them. Let me tell you that. And then every one of us has available for the first time in history to have infinite affluence, money, and influence. And Solomon said, Psalm 72, your job is to be an influencer of influencer. And the people that are listening to this are the superstars of our planet, many of whom are my personal friends. So, and yours. And the point is, you can't ever quit. You can't go from something to nothing, or you send your equipment back to the original manufacturer, because the original manufacturer said, no, we gave you an assignment. And let me talk to that a second. And I want to do a story with your permission. It'll take a minute, but we just had a guy call us and say, look, I'm really rich. I'm an IT guy, but I got a great story. I said, oh, tell it to me and maybe we can help you with your book. And I can't use his name yet because we're making it into a filmy, but anyhow, he's brain dead for 28 days at the famed Mayo Clinic. Now, Mayo Clinic's, the biggest one is 18 billion a year here. It's not in Rochester. It's in Scottsdale, Arizona, where I live. And I've been there visiting people. I don't need it myself, but he's in there brain dead, and his wife is falling in love with the doctor. And she said, look, he just bought a $10 million policy, but it doesn't effectuate for 28 days. So the 29th day, we'll pull his plug. You get $5 million, I get $5 million. We'll get married. We'll live happily ever after. Well, the 29th day, have I told you this story?
Oh,
29th day, the doctor pulls the plug. By the way, I changed my will after I read this because I thought if you're brain dead, you're dead. You're not dead. He jumps up in bed, pulls out all the IVs, pulls out the catheter, which, that's always serious, and says, look, you two fall in love, get married. I'm going straight to the lawyer. I'm changing the will. The insurance policy will be changed in the next hour. You're not getting anything. And when you're we're in the three dimensions, physical dimensions here, but the spiritual dimension, the fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh dimension, which is talked about in the Bible, right? When you're in those dimensions, and in India, when I studied there for a year, they have the Akashic record, total awareness. When you're in that dimension, you have total 100% recall. And the guy said, I can tell you every word, every day, every time. And you guys do whatever you want. Well, they were both really upset. And he obviously got divorced, and this book's going to be good. And we're talking now to Paramount about doing it as a movie in addition to our movie out of Fable and Michaela Ought to Ask. So it's like so super because they're short of content, and we did 91 books in the last year to help other people get books because everybody's got a book in them.
everybody does. That one has a lot of layers of psychological. That's a good one. That is a good story. It's remarkable. It doesn't make any sense. It's fatalistic, and it's also karma. Wow.
How is it fatalistic? Because she wanted to kill him?
Fatalistic as in they've got the fate that they deserve, which is, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish.
By the way, it's of their own doing.
It's of their own doing.
She was greedy. And when you're greedy and needy, you're in a lose-lose. When you come out of abundance and you're into tithing, and I wrote a whole book called Miracle of Tithing, which is sold at all big churches in the world probably. But, you get more. It says you'll open up the windows of heaven, pour you down such a rich reward, you won't be able to receive it. And can I do one more story like that?
Absolutely.
So Chip Collins is this guy 12 years older than me, teach me how to do the speaking business. We mastermind, which is what Jim and I are going to do with you that want to. But a mastermind was created by Andrew Carnegie. He read through the Bible. Jesus never did his first miracle, water into wine at Canaan, until he had 12 disciples, synchromesh, going the same direction. A little later on, Judas screwed up the deal, but up until it was a pretty good deal, right? And so Chip and I are masterminding 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock every Friday, going over everything I did or didn't do and could do better and build a bigger empire, which I built it into $100 million empire. So I did pretty good. We had 4,000 people a weekend, 40 weekends a year. So Tony Robbins and I had the 2 biggest empires. And I said, wait a second, I'm doing so well with books. I'm selling 15 million books a year. I got to stay on course here on what God gave me to do. I'm not, it's too hard to do seminars and books. You got to do one or the other. So I chose books, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
It does to me.
Anyhow, so Chip Collins is teaching me. In the first meeting we had together, he said, look, I was the #1 salesman at Kodak. This is when Kodak was working. This is before cell phones came along and Steve Jobs found out they could dematerialize pictures into a phone. Now we have 1 trillion pictures taken a year, which is like so way cool. You can't believe it. But George Eastman wasn't smart enough to see that he owned it and didn't patent it. Right? He thought he was in the chemical business. Too bad for him. I see a couple companies doing that same thing right now, which I can talk about. Anyhow, Chip is sitting there and he's ambidextrous. And the joke is I get my right hand to be ambidextrous. Anyhow, Chip with his right hand is writing what this guy is saying, the sales trainer. And with his left hand, he'd do a better job saying this, this, and this. Well, for the first 4 months, he didn't make any money. And then he said, look, I'm broke. God, what are you going to do? He goes to, he's Catholic, goes to Catholic church. He has 38 cents in his pocket, a wife who loves him, Donna, and 2 kids that are great. They're still great friends. And he says, okay, God, I think I'm supposed to tithe, so I'm giving you all 38 cents. Here's 38 cents in the thing. And he's walking out of the church crying. And a guy pulls at his lapel and said, are you Chip Collins? He said, guilty. He said, well, you came to my office last week to sell a seminar for $400 and I didn't have it, but I just made a big sale. Here's a check for $400. Chip went from despondent, disconsolate, ready to kill himself to suddenly head over heels and built an enormous little empire for himself and a lot of other people. How's that?
You know, we're in the neuroscience business. So people see it as miracles. People see it as coincidence. But physiologically, when you stop the madness, when you stop the expectation, when you stop the self-doubt and the chaos between your ears, things happen. But they're always happening. Most of us aren't aware because we're moving too fast. Our senses aren't open. We lack self-awareness and we're not paying attention. But we love these stories because it feels like, oh, it's the last thing that happened. No, many things probably happened to Chip along the way for him to give away his last 38 cents. But that's an amazing story and heartwarming as well.
Yeah, well, that's the point, is that all of us have filters and you go, if I give away 38 cents, then I'm going to be really broke. But what happened is that when you give in secret, all religions teach anything, you're rewarded openly, right? That's the line. I can quote a lot of different people on it, but
freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. It's true. It is. So in your experience, Mark, what are the most common limiting beliefs that people carry about money? And how do those beliefs quietly shape their lives?
Oh, boy, I love your questions. This little book that we did, Ask, The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. Crystal wrote it, and I call her the goddess of exquisiteness, and we've had a lot of meals together, including 2 birthdays of mine together, so with the whole family, so it's great. But we say, look, there's 7 roadblocks to asking for money. The first one is your self-worth. Back to what you said. You said self-reliance, self-worth, self-love, self-initiative to action. We can put in any of those words. They'll come up with the same thing. You got to feel worthy that you can sell whatever you got, whether it's a product, a service, an idea, an IP, or an enrollment, or get somebody to marry you, or whatever it is. I mean, we can go through a lot of categories. The second one is naivete. You're unaware of what's possible because we all grew up with limited belief systems. Like my parents would never, if I told them I was going to become a world's best-selling author, they would have gone, Marky's drinking funny Kool-Aid, right? What are you doing, Marky? What are you doing? And are you smoking something down there or what? Anyhow, so Doubt, because we doubt ourselves. And here's what we're doing. If you don't have the confidence to do what you need to do, Jim and I are giving you 100% confidence that you can do it. And anytime you don't feel confident, remember, we are inundating you with confidence. And the product that I created for NuCalm, I got several coming out, but the first one was the money mindset, which we'll talk about. You're going to get a mindset that there is fundamental abundance. There's never been more than now, and more people makes more abundance. So we're that was taught by Professor Simon at University of Chicago, which is really cool. But Bucky also taught there's more than enough for the first time, because when we have more people, we have more thinking, more imagination, more intuition, more realization. So you got to overcome your doubt with confidence. We're giving it to you. Fear. The cliche is fear is false evidence appearing as real, right? I talked to 6 people that first day, 9 people that first day that said no to me, but you don't feel rejected if you won't let it in, right? They just didn't make the right decision the first time. When I went back and I said, hey, Big Tony hired me and his people went up 10% last week and they're all selling $1 million policies now. You guys are just selling $100,000 policies. Do you guys want to be on the gravy train here? And that's exactly what's happening with, we did a book for the guy who owns A1 Garage Door, who got kicked out of school because he's ADD. He thinks faster than all of his teachers. But if you're selling you a garage door, and his last year he made $650 million, this year he'll do $1 billion. He hires people that are ADD that can't get a job, and they come out and say, look, here's the spring we're going to put in your garage door, Jim. The normal one is this price in the last 5 years. Our spring lasts 20 years for the same price. Which one do you want? Pretty easy, isn't it? You see why he's making money and everybody else is coming to him? All it takes, ladies and gentlemen, is one idea. And if you go deep into your consciousness and you ask, the size of your question determines the size of your results. So if you ask bigger questions, you get bigger results. I'll show you how to go from 100,000 to $1 million in a second. Next, 6 is pattern paralysis, brain conditioning, which we have talked about. And number 7, disconnection, because most people aren't present time available because they're moving, and not saying, hey, wait a second, what is it I've got to do, be, and have? Because if you can be it, you can do it, you can have it. That's the point. I was going to be a professional speaker. Then all of a sudden I found out, wow, I'm really good at writing books and selling them. I'm going to go out and become world's best-selling author. Now at the front end, I didn't tell anyone. And I wrote it on a 3x5 card. I put it in my wallet wrapped in a $100 bill because you feel prosperous, you get prosperous. And it said, I'm so happy and thankful I'm world's best-selling author. Signed Mark Victor Hansen, my wife. It's real simple, right? And now I are that according to Guinness Book of Records.
I love it. Self-doubt, confusion, right?
Yep.
The fear factor. It's really just how our brains are wired.
Right.
None of us are weak. None of us are
Nope.
cowards. None of us have, this life that was given to us. We're not people of consequence. But the way the brain works, your brain, your central nervous system, your amygdala, it doesn't want you to make a mistake. It doesn't like shame. It doesn't like feeling humiliated. And it has a memory better than anything you'll ever remember. So it knows, hey, at this point you went out, you were in 5th grade and you talked to this person and they shunned you and looked away and your friends giggled. Your brain remembers that. So a lot of this is built in the circuitry of our brain. And we are all, Mark, as you know, we're all creatures of habit. Our central nervous system, our prefrontal cortex, doesn't want to burn calories learning anything. So we have the capacity to normalize really dysfunctional lifestyle habits. And then we get stuck in those habits. So a lot of this is breaking free of the prison you're putting yourself in based on how our brains are wired. And we get complacent as well, right? We can be aspirational, Mark, and then we get complacent, or the day goes by and we're in our pattern and we're thinking about our to-do list. And then after dinner, we take a walk and then we put the television on. Guess what? Now we have to complacency. You all speak about abundance and possibility. Someone who feels best stuck and ashamed about money, which is really just shameful. What is the first mindset shift they need to make?
By the way, we're breaking up just a little bit. I don't know if we can do anything about that or not at this moment, but the way to do your mind shift is to have your mental shift. And the mental shift is, I asked you if I could create a product that was invincible to give people a mindset in 1 month. And so I wrote this money mindset program for you, and you did the most. I'm going to let you talk to the music and underwriting. I love listening to it. And what happens is you are imploding it at the depth of your being, right? Because the most programmable time in the human mind, right before you go to sleep at night, hypnagogic, and when you wake up, hypnopedic. And what happens is your subconscious never sleeps. Now, when you're a little kid, they have to put up guardrails so you don't fall out of bed. But I'm pretty sure, Jim, you don't fall out of bed anymore, because your subconscious knows, nope, that's not like a good idea, or breaking my elbow or arm would be good. Anyhow, the point is, this goes into your brain and it says, I am money. Money loves me and I love money. And it starts to indwell, implode. It impregnates itself at the depth of a seed level, so it has to bloom. Because any idea you put into mind, the mind is teleological, it's going to go for. And why not have unlimited money, infinite wealth, infinite affluence, infinite credibility, infinite ability to pull off all your magic? I mean, the difference between Elon Musk and anyone else is that he believes he can do it. It's done unto you according to your belief. And the trouble with the word believe is the middle three letters are LIE. So you're either lying yourself up and saying, hey, I'm going to go pull this off. Nobody had ever been world's best-selling author before me. And now I've sold 500 million. But with all these other books we're doing, we're going to sell 1 billion, which was my real goal, right? Because I thought, wow, is that a cool goal or what? And then, or you lie yourself down saying, I'm not good enough. I have doubt. I have resistance. Nobody likes me. The publishing industry. I got turned down by 144 people in the publishing industry. And let me just hit on that real quick. Is it Jack and I are full partners 50-50, but Jack went to Harvard, third in his class, super bright, but he's the inside guy. I'm the outside guy. I said, look, if you get rejected, you one clean 4-letter word, NEXT, because somebody's going to buy whatever you're selling if you get to enough people, right? And I learned that from Ross Perot, who, when he was the number one salesman at IBM, he started electronic data system. He knocked on 80 doors, got 80 no's. The 81st door was $4 million. He divided 80 into 4 million. He made $50,000 every time he got a no. So when you start looking at it, you're starting to say, whoa, I got my $50,000 here, right? And I've done way better than that. So it is amazing what you can do if you just think about it and read positive self-help action books and shut off. Remember I said disconnection. Shut off all the media. Shut off TikTok or YouTube or whatever it is that you're using as your, I don't know if I should use this word, proverbial tit to get nourishment from. I want you to read the kind of books I write, Tony writes, you write now, and there are a lot of good ones, and I'll gladly give a whole list of everybody what you ought to read. And you start at goldvictoryhansenlibrary.com. We got a lot of them for you.
So Mark Victor Hansen and NuCalm have collaborated. Now, we do nothing in haste, and we do nothing without method and meticulous design. So Mark said, Jim, I want to do a track with you that's about money, and it's about the relationship with money, and it's about abundance and prosperity and the possibilities and what can be. And I was like, great. I love Mark, and I know he's going to just do an amazing job. So he did it, and he sent us a transcript, and it was pure brilliance. I read it, just a written word on a piece of paper. I was like, this is incredible. This is abundance on a piece of paper. So our path, how we do these things is we read it, we speculate, there's science and there's creative art involved. Then we say, what do we want the person's mindset to be at when they're listening to this? So Mark, you just alluded to that. There's several different areas in your brainwave frequency that's associated with opening up a permeable insight into your brain and into your soul and imprinting on the ability to turn words into behavioral changes. Many of us are distracted. We put on AirPods or in-ear buds and we walk around the neighborhood or listen to a podcast. But as soon as a bird, flies near you or a dog crosses the street and you're distracted, then your squirrel brain just takes you down this path of circuitous squirreling. Great. You're not paying attention to any of the words. You get lost in your own thoughts. Well, what if we could take your brain and open it to a place of higher consciousness and elevated consciousness at 40 hertz, which is commensurate with mental acuity and the ability to be omnipresent with the words that are coming in to your brain. That's the combination. We built a 40 hertz track. It's 8 minutes and 44 seconds. you'll notice there's a bilateralization in the music, how we do this. We go left, right, left brain, right brain, left brain, right brain, left brain, right brain. We're doing that to get rid of distraction and open up your brain's ability to absorb every one of your words. So we took this brilliant manuscript and we did all of this work to it and then put it on top of this physics. So if you think about how we can do what we do, the combination is brilliant. We take brilliance, wisdom from brilliant human beings. We create the most sophisticated software to open up the permeability of your mind to actually imprint the words into your soul, because this is how we change behavior. But even with that said, Mark, I listen to it every morning. My wife listens to it every morning.
Thank you.
I do not think for 1 second that there are things I can't continue to learn, nor do I think for 1 second there aren't new things that I can imprint upon. You carried around a 3x5 card wrapped inside a $100 bill with a message, but you carry it around every day because that message has import. Well, so does every word on this. So Money Mindset is a brilliant collaboration. I know it's the first of many, but this is so important for us today. There's too many things for us to worry about. There's too many things against us as a human species to have the confidence, the will to achieve happiness and joy. Well, what if we can restructure how your mind interprets your relationship with money? Let's check the box off of that negativity piece in our life. For those of you who have a bad relationship with money, whether it's fear or fear of not having enough or whatever that is, can you imagine not burning a single calorie for the rest of your life on the negative consequence of your relationship with money? That's what this is about. So what does true wealth mean to you, Mark Victor Hansen, today? And how is that different from what you believed earlier in your life?
Well, first of all, as a little kid, I didn't believe that it existed. I thought it was for the cherished few. Did I say that right? Cherished few. Hey, these are rented lifts. And I thought, wow, maybe you got to be royalty like, originally Prince Charles or Lady Di or something. But as I've gotten wealthy, what I see is that once you start becoming really successful and you apply, and what I'm going to ask you to do, your homework assignment, should you choose to accept it, your Mission Impossible, listen to this. It's in the vault, the energy vault. Listen to it for 30 days. At the end of 30 days, you call Jim and he and I will talk to you. Your money is going to explode. It's not even going to take off a little bit. I mean, I've created, with 1 Minute Millionaire, we sold so many books that we melted down Jeff Bezos. We sold 3.7 million books in one day. And Jeff Bezos calls up and said, "What the hell do you guys do?" And I said, "Look, Jeff, my name's at the top of this book." And I said, and it's 2 books in one. And I said, "Here's what we did. We told everybody to buy it from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the butterfly is a universal symbol of freedom. And everything that's on the money mindset comes out of this book, right? All the principles. But on the left-hand side, it's your left brain. The right-hand side is the emotional part. And you can see the butterfly flies you to financial freedom. In 90 days, you make $1 million. Now, the 2 books that are the best in the world, as far as I'm concerned, is Mind and Think and Grow Rich by my hero, Napoleon Hill. And a lot of you have read that. And I've certainly talked at the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and we're best friends. So we're not competing. What we're trying to do is say, hey, look, everybody that makes $1 million, which isn't a lot anymore, employs directly and indirectly 10 people. If you make $1 billion, you employ 10,000, and that includes all the AI people. Like right now, all those robots that are being made by, again, my hero who's got 8, multi-billion-dollar companies, Elon. He's got 150,000 people working, making robots right now. And people are fighting to get to work with him because it's exciting. He's going places, doing stuff. And that's what all of us are supposed to do. It's not for just him. He is just showing that he's going to have the first $1 trillion payday, not $1 million, not $1 billion, $1 trillion. And you all that know money, and most of you do really well, 1,000 thousands, $1 million, 1,000 millions, $1 billion, 1,000 billions, $1 trillion. And he said, look, if I can make Tesla, which makes cars, and he makes them now in 17 seconds with robots, which Henry Ford is going, oh my God, I wish I'd known that. And then now he's going to have flying cars by the end of the year, which I think is so cool that I can hardly believe it. You can look on YouTube and watch that. But he's going to first build the base on Moon, and then you go to Mars without any gravity. And he's going to bring 1 million of Americans there. So, And he said, I want to die on Mars, but not on impact. But the point is, he said, I'll do 30 trillion Optimus robots, and he's got Optimus 3 now. And he said, they're going to do all the work, all the ugly, disgusting work, and everyone's going to be able to be financially free and have their own robot probably for 50 cents a day, is what he's saying, right? As the price comes down, as the volume goes up. We're in an exciting time, ladies and gentlemen, but you're going to miss the program if your mind is filtering out, oh, I couldn't do that. I can't be that. I can't have that. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. No. Jim and I are holding up a magic mirror. Look in it. You can be what you want to be, do what you want to do, have what you want to have, and listening to this tape is going to get you to have all the money you need to do whatever you want. In our case, we're now going from markvictorhansenlibrary.com into Crystal Mark Entertainment, and we're going to make the biggest movies in history.
So 11 years ago, you sent me tapes from Earl Nightingale.
Yep.
And I listened to that driving whenever I drove, however I drove, repeatedly. First of all, I loved his voice, even though obviously he smoked cigarettes. That was amazing. And that really helped me just understand conformity is the true bad piece of success. And when we conform to something, whether it's we conform to our pattern, or we conform to a social mores or a norm, or we conform to limiting beliefs that were handed down by our parents because they grew up in the Depression or after that, that is what really opened up my eyes to all of this. Is wow, this is fascinating. We all have it within us. Marcus Aurelius, a couple thousand years ago, was out there talking about this. And it's interesting, isn't it, Mark? For a couple thousand years, prophets, leaders of men and women have been sharing this whole concept. And we still don't get it. Why? The people who do are the people who are successful. And then the people who don't look at the people who are successful and think, I can't have that. Of course you can. Everybody listening to this, you can have anything you want, any level of abundance you want, any financial freedom you want, any opportunity for incredible relationships. You simply have to believe, and people buy, and they are influenced by people who are confident, and people who are confident breeds confidence. So it's almost like inertia, right? Yep. So how do you personally stay in a state of optimism? Like I said at the outset, you and I are both share pathological optimism, which is really helpful and keeps us going every day. Creativity and abundance, even during uncertainty.
Well, that's three questions in one. But first of all, I am perennially optimistic, because you're either optimistic or pessimistic. And pessimistic, if you win with pessimism, you're in a lose-lose situation. If you win with optimism, you make everybody better off and no one worse off. And my goal is make everybody watching better off, because there's no shortage. There's infinite supply. All you got to do is look at universe. It's got trillions of stars. And if the big guy, if you're made in the image and likeness of the big guy, then guess what? You and I have got infinite possibility, infinite wealth building, infinite relationship building, infinite creativity. Now, how do you wake up your creativity? Well, when we needed the right title for Chicken Soup for the Soul, and Jack and I didn't have it, we sat in my jacuzzi drinking wine one night. We wrote 134 titles, and I said, Jack, they're all good. I mean, he wrote one title that said, what do people want in our seminars? How to get laid, paid, and go to heaven. I said, Jack, it's a great title, but it doesn't fit who we are. You know, Jack, I love you, but that isn't going to work for us. It won't work. So we went into our respective houses and did a thought command, which is what we're talking about here. You're commanding yourself to attract lots of wealth and money and affluence and influence. And you say 101 times, if you're spiritual like I am, you go, God in me has the answer. God in me has the answer. God in me has the answer. In this case, we said, God in me has a mega best-selling title. God in me has a mega best-selling title. God in me. And Jack did the same exact thing at his house up in Santa Barbara. I was in Newport Beach, California at that time. He calls, now this is 1989. This is before cell phones. And so we had 4 phones in this big house. My daughter's becoming a veterinarian. And we got 88 animals in 1 acre. And the phone rings. The chickens go crazy. Right? And the dogs go crazy. And the turtles were wandering around. I thought, oh my God. And Jack says, chicken soup. I said, for the soul. I said, we got it. We both got goosebumps. Goosebumps, God bumps, chili bumps is God's corroboration of truth in my experience. Now, if somebody out there might not believe that, but that's just my experience. So you're allowed to believe what you believe. I'll believe what I believe. But what I believe happens to work, right, at every level. And then you write down what you want. So you figure out what you want. Number 2, you got to put it in writing. 3, you got to see it before you can have it. That's the tough thing. Michael Jordan saw himself as the greatest basketball player ever. Now, my grandson, who I was just with for the last week and touring everywhere in Vegas, I said, Everett, what do you want to be? He said, at 18, I'm going to make $30 million a year as a Phoenix Sun. I said, wow. Not thinking he had an answer. I said, then what? He said, at 35, I'm going to manage. I said, then what? Again, not thinking he had an answer. He said, I'm going to buy the company and I'm going to own the Phoenix Suns. I said, son, that is $4.8 billion, and I'm not buying. He said, Grampy, I'll have the money. Don't you know that? I said, yes, sir, you will.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it. If you interviewed 1,000 successful people, there's a unilateral thought pattern, there's a focus, and there's a confidence. It's inherent. You can't take it away from them. We just need to get it out from all of us.
Yeah, we're going to detox their mind with negative, get rid of the negativity, and they're going to live in positivity. Just 31 days, wake up, listen to it for the few minutes, like you said, and before you go to sleep, listen to it. And like in your case, you got your spouse listening to it. Obviously, my wife and I are listening. We're getting all our kids and grandkids to listen because I want everybody to be better off. And you can't be better off. Money is a neutral thing. It goes where it's invited, stays where it's welcomed. If you've never welcomed it into your life, it doesn't come and beat you over the head or knock at your door. You got to invite it in. And I've loved inviting it in, as you've heard me say again and again here tonight.
And one of the things that I find fascinating is that when you opened up the book and you said left brain, right brain, we didn't use the book as an anchor when we built the soundtrack and the physics. We chose, probably because of your intention. Maybe you said, hey, this is what I want these guys to do. We did a bilateral stimulation soundtrack. Left brain, right brain, left brain, right brain, left brain, right brain. You can hear it when you hear the words. So what role do calm, clarity, and nervous system regulation play in making better decisions about money and life?
I love the question. First of all, everyone needs to be calm, present, and going through life. And the beautiful thing about NuCalm is that most people are freaking out all the time, right? And they're not calm. Oh, you got a blue one. You never gave me a blue one. No, I don't need a blue one. I got a beautiful white one that I've sweat through climbing all the mountains. Anyhow, everybody needs to be calm and centered and stress. There's 3 kinds of stress, is what you're alluding to. There's stress, day-to-day stress. There's de-stress, which wrecks your body and causes heart attacks and strokes and diabetes, all kinds of bad stuff. Then there's eustress, EU-stress. And that's where you and I live. Positive stress, where you wake up the creativity. You tell yourself, 1 times 4, you go to sleep, I'm going to wake up with the answer. I'm going to wake up with the answer. I'm going to wake up with the answer. Now, you've got to be ready to have next to you a pen and piece of paper to write down the note. You've got to tell your sweetiekins, hey, I might have to get up in the middle of the night. If Mark's telling the truth, the idea is coming through. And by the way, I just got to show you this. Somebody made so much money because of me. He made $35 million in a year. He gave me gold in a little floating thing. So one of the companies I own, we just made pins that have floating gold in it. Is that cool or is that cool? Did I give you one of these yet?
No.
Well, when we're together, I will. And I've written a book that'll come out this summer called America's Golden Age, because we're going into the greatest time America's ever had. And people just don't know it. And if you don't know it, you can't believe it. If you don't believe it, you can't achieve it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. And, for the listeners out there, NuCalm is magical. We all know that. This is a NuCalm event. But really, foundationally, what it does is addition by subtraction. And you get rid of all the toxic negativity and all the conversations going on behind your eyes, and you're open. Of course, you make better decisions because you have access to who you want to be, the personality and character, and your aspirations of where you want to go. You're not forced into anything. When we're in a state of fear, we're forced into decisions in haste, and we're forced into decisions in a small-minded thinking of agitation and responsiveness and reaction. It doesn't need to be that way. So literally, by downregulating your nervous system, you're open to anything you want to be, when you want to be it, and how you want to be it.
And people don't trust people that come in and are going like this and shaking. They trust people that are calm, resolute, have the answers, and know what they know. Back to what you said 2 paragraphs ago, I wanted to hitchhike. The reason I sold more books than anybody else alive is that I interviewed the 101 best-selling fiction and nonfiction authors. I did not ask, how do you write? That is an insulting question, because if you can't write, you shouldn't be talking to the world's best-selling authors. And I did everybody here, Clive Cussler, obviously Earl Nightingale, you name it, and Bob Proctor and all those, and Nora Roberts and Danielle Steele, and we all know each other because there's. But I said, how did you market and sell more books than anybody? And I wrote it down. Everyone had a different answer. And then I wrote it into a business plan, and that's why we did it. Because I knew everything, and they only knew what they knew. So they'd sell 1 million, 2 million. Wayne Dyer told me he sold 70 million, right, of erroneous zones, which people read because they thought it said erogenous zones. Anyhow, which goes along with what you were saying earlier. Yeah, I'm glad. I hope that's not too irascible for your listeners.
Just because people can write doesn't mean they can read, right, Marcus?
Right.
Well, so here we go. If you could leave the NuCalm community, this is our mastermind community. This is the elite of the elite. This is our ambitious folks. These are the ones who invest in their time and their health and their wealth and in the people that they love. If you could leave us all with one powerful truth about money, self-worth, and what's possible for our future, what would that be?
I'm going to go backwards in your answer. As your money goes up, your self-worth goes up because you're self-creating it. So, but my question in all the books I write is the size of your question determines the size of your result. And let me tell you where I learned that. I'm selling insurance guys on selling more insurance, and they did, and I made a lot of money doing it, and they made a lot of money, and it was great, and we had fun, and I went from local to national to international to being part of all the big companies. Is wonderful. But I'm at the world's biggest sales event for insurance, the National Life Underwriters in New York, packed. I'm talking the world's bestseller insurance, who outsold 1,500 of the 1,800 insurance companies. One guy, Ben Feldman, been in the cover of Forbes and Newsweek and Time, and you name it, Ben was on it. Ben wore suits that were pressed 400 times too many. He did not think much about his attire, and he talked with a lisp. And he was a heck of a nice guy. He lived in East Liverpool, Ohio. But I'm with him privately. Everybody's afraid to talk to him. Now, this is, you got to understand, afraid to talk. And I said, Ben, is it okay if I buy you lunch? He said, yeah, kid, you can buy lunch. I make $4 million when I wake up January 2nd every year, but from New York Life. But if you want to pay, you pay, kid. I said, look, it's my pleasure. I need to learn something from you. He said, I'm studying wealth. He said, well, good. Here's what happens. Tell me how much you're making. Now, remember, 1974 or 5, $100,000 a year, that's a lot, right? That's $400 a day, 250 work days. That gives you Jewish and Christian holidays off. Bingo. He said, look, to make $1 million a year, Mark, is 10. I said, excuse me, Ben? I don't get it. What do you mean 10? He said, you love your daughters, right? At that time, I only had daughters, no sons yet. He said, if your daughter was really sick and you need to make $4,000 tomorrow, you think you could do it? I said, of course. He said, because you're a salesman, and salesman is the most noble profession, the highest paid hard work, lowest paid easy work in the world. There's no better profession. I said, yes, sir. He said, but 4,000 a day times 250 work days equals $1 million a year. I immediately started making $1 million. That's when I started writing books, because now I got paid twice. And now that we're doing biographies, we're doing biographies on a lot of billionaires, like we're doing. We did just finish, and it comes out on June 3rd. You know this guy, John Paul DeJoria, who, homeless twice and then created Paul Mitchell, 37,000 beauty salons in 103 countries and all that, and just is wonderful, and Patron, 100 million bottles a month. Anyhow, all these guys have taught me the same thing. You got to get paid twice. So I got paid to do the talk, then I got paid to sell all the product. And the product went from a $10 book up to a $1,000 package, up to a $25,000 year-long commitment seminar. So, and the people will pay it, because education has got to happen. And the school system, I got two teacher daughters, and I used to be a professor, so it's a little dangerous here, but it is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And I love the stuff that my neighbor here now, Dr. Jordan Peterson's doing. He started a school for $400. Everybody that pays it per year gets another kid on scholarship that's deserving. And if you go to Peterson Academy. You'll be blown away with how education can be effective and make everybody better off.
Mark, I love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
I love the words of wisdom. I know that everybody listening gets a sense for just how enthusiastic you are for helping, for sharing your wisdom. And you can see there's a possibility inside your heart, and your words ring with truth. We all have it in us. It's a matter of simply stopping, reflecting, going internal. What's passionate for us? What's our purpose? What do we want to do? And then go do it. Nothing's going to stop you. A few no's from strangers isn't stopping anybody. So follow your heart, step up to what you want to do, because when you step into your purpose, you never work a day in your life.
That's right.
With great enthusiasm, and you go get it. So thank you very much, Mark, for all that you do, for everybody that you've done it for, all the influence, all the enthusiasm, all the ambition, all the support, all the coaching. And I know that money mindset is literally going to change the relationship people have with money. Many of us from a negative relationship to a positive relationship. And I also know that this is just the first of many of our collaborations. So much love to you and Crystal. Thank you very much for all that you do. And everybody, thank you for joining us here at this exclusive mastermind event. We love you. Take care of yourselves.